welcome to a new edition of the brand called You. Today, I have a very, very accomplished young lady, Nidhi Agarwal, on our show. Nidhi, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Nidhi is the Director of Finance in a global Fortune 500 company. She's a chartered accountant and she's worked earlier with Fidelity and Ernst& Young. Nidhi, tell me a little bit about your early career before you joined the multinational that you work for now.
So I started my career more than 18 years back with Ernst& Young. And it was as an audit executive out there. And I still remember my day one in that organization, and the partner at that point in time in E&Y, he gave me the advice that Nidhi, you have been hired here so that you can add value to us, and also don't ever be hesitant to question even your seniors, but in a very respectful way on the latest accounting standards or be it latest tax laws, because you have just qualified and read them, and keep yourself updated on that. So that's where when I started my career, that's the early time, and I still remember I was very young, very just first job. I was very introvert, very shy person, and one of my leaders then gave me an advice that you have a lot of good thoughts in your mind, and when we speak to you on one-on-one basis, it's fantastic conversation. So don't be hesitant to share your thoughts in the group. Be vocal, make your thoughts heard.
Okay.
So those were the early days I can still remember.
And how many years did you spend with Ernst& Young?
I was there for almost 5 years.
Okay. And then you moved to Fidelity.
Yeah, then I moved to Fidelity because once I got married, it wasn't easy to cope up with those long hours, weekend workings for me. And that's when Fidelity was just setting up their financial service center in India. I was fortunate enough to be part of a global company then.
Okay, wonderful. And then you moved again. So tell me about your current company. What do you do there?
So I work as a director of finance in a Fortune 500 company. And like any finance person job, my job is more to look at the numbers, look at the financial integrity of the financial statements, specifically for my process, ensuring regulatory, tax, transfer pricing compliances around it. So that's what about it. It's a great company. And what I really love about my job is that I get an opportunity to interact with global people and meet a lot of folks, travel, and again learn about so many diverse cultures.
Correct.
And work with great leaders.
Wonderful. So, when I was reading about you, I was, seeing that you lead a lot of large teams. And obviously you're successful, which is why your company wants you to lead large teams. My question to you is that what do you look for in individuals to be a part of your team, to make them successful?
So, whenever I would hire any individual in my team, the first thing I look for is a positive attitude of that person. And the second is how he or she is complementing to the overall skills in my team. I think it is very important as a leader that I have in my team people who complement me and who are not like me. And this I have learned in a very hard way in my life.
Okay.
Early on in my career as a people leader, I was like, always I wanted to have a chartered accountant or someone with a similar background, maybe from SRCC and stuff like those in my team. And I think one of my global leader realized this thing soon. And she gave me an assignment to work on a project, a very important project, with a person who was very different from a very different nationality, very different background and skills. In terms of the, I would say his leadership style and my own style were very different. And she put us both together on a project.
Correct.
And initially I thought it would be very difficult. How will I even work with this person? But having worked on that project, I realized that we were able to come up with the best outcome because they were diverse perspectives. We could bring on that project and look at it with different lenses, which couldn't have been possible.
Correct.
If I was there and along with me, there were people who were just like me.
Correct.
Or who could think like me, who have the same background.
Correct.
So it is so important when you are building a best team
Yeah.
that try to have people with diverse thought processes, diverse background, and making sure you bring them all together.
Correct. Correct.
That's where I
I
believe you
agree.
can.
I agree. And you mentioned to me before when we were talking that you were involved in systems and processes, and I'm sure as finance head, you're involved in automation. Um, what kind of a culture is needed in a company to make automation successful?
So, making an automation successful, first of all, there will be a fear in the people whenever you're going to talk about automation that what will happen to our jobs. And it's quite a human mind can work that way. But what I have learned over this period is that if you are transparent with your teams on an automation when you are driving, if you excite them that what they are learning is say a new technology or new things like robotics and stuff like it which they will add to their saving, then they will come along with you. They will rally around that. And to make an automation successful, it is so important to have the right people with the techno finance skills and the process skills on that project, making sure that you streamline first the process, because if you would automate an inefficient process, the results will not be
I
the
agree.
right one. So
I
it's
agree.
first important to look at the end-to-end process, streamline it, and then automate it, be agile, do the proof of concept, and fail fast. That's all are really important
Wonderful.
to make an automation
Successful.
successful.
Wonderful. And what are your thoughts on AI and ML algorithms being used in financial services?
So in
And maybe
today's
for our guests, tell us what is AI and ML.
yeah. So AI is artificial intelligence
Intelligence.
and algorithms which are now being used in decision making, because based on the data sets and a coding, there is a coding done, I would say, in a layman language that would take a decision. For example, when you are scanning the CVs, what kind of CVs to be shortlisted for a job profile, or it can be when you get an application for somebody applying for a loan or somebody applying for a credit card, there are algorithms you're running through so that you can decide upon whether this person can be given a loan, how much loan that person can be given, or that credit card application can be processed or can go ahead with. So now in today's world, to survive, all financial services definitely will have to move to algorithms and machine learning's automated decision making. But what is important is that since these codes are anyway created by human beings, you have to be so important that the biases are not built in these codes.
Okay.
Because see, there are then thousands of codes running. If there are not proper checks and balances to make sure that there are no discrimination happening, biases happening, and then the company's ethics, code of conduct being followed. So a proper audit and a GCO kind of stuff to make sure when these codes are created, there are no biases inbuilt. Because once they are running, then nobody can even know at the back end what's happening.
Okay.
So it is so important that as these companies are moving towards these automated algorithms, logics for decision making, making sure that these are not biased, and there otherwise many of the companies can be subject to litigation and stuff like this.
So tell me, in the US for a very, very long period of time, credit rating is very important.
Yeah.
So if you go there as a student and if you don't have a credit history, you can't get a small little loan. In India, it has always been who do you know? So if I know my banker, I can get something.
Yeah.
Is this beginning to change in our country? So if I want a credit from my credit card company,
I think it is beginning to change a lot, not only with the credit card companies, but a lot of fintech companies which are coming and which are giving up these kind of loans basis of lot of analysis which they do beyond your credit history based on your social media, your other stuff which they are analyzing, how much you are traveling. They are doing a lot of fantastic stuff if you hear these fintech companies today in terms of providing loans and fundings to an individual. the venues which were not available earlier, where a loan could be given only if you know somebody in a bank or if you have a friend who's influential.
Correct.
But it's changing. It's changing, I think, and there's more to come
I agree. I
with
agree.
many intellectual people in fintech world
Correct.
looking at this stuff.
Correct. I agree. And let's talk a little bit about our government's keen desire to move to a cashless economy. What are your thoughts on cashless economy in our country, or do you think we will still be predominantly a cash economy?
So Ashutosh, I would say that if I look back maybe 10 years back, we couldn't ever think of paying for a vegetable vendor by a non-cash.
I'm much older than you, and I got my first credit card with ITC after about 6 years working for them.
Okay, yeah. So that's what it
So
takes.
you're right.
Yeah. So maybe few years back we couldn't even think of giving to our driver a salary, maybe in a non-cash form
Or direct transfer to their accounts.
direct transfer to their accounts.
Yeah.
And in last couple of years, with so many wallets, digital wallets and stuff like coming in, things are changing. But the penetration in terms of the wallets, UPI, even though UPI is picking up, or you may say credit card, debit card, it's still very low.
Very
I
low.
would say that we are just at the start of the journey
Okay.
in comparison to many other countries across the globe in terms of the cashless transaction. There is a much more ground to be covered ahead,
Okay.
and a lot of that will be dependent on government policy, the network infrastructure, the internet being
Correct.
available to do these kind of
I agree.
transaction in a rural area and things anywhere, we would say. And I believe a lot of fintech companies will be working on this and things will be changing, and there are many multinational companies who are wanting to tap all these opportunities we have in India.
Yeah.
As we move towards the
Yeah,
cashless.
yeah. You're right. And Amazon Pay is here, Google Pay is here, Apple Pay is everyone's here.
And nobody wants to lose our brand. Which is
It's a big market. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. So, again, coming back to to use your own terms, you're a people leader. Over the years, I'm sure you have worked with a lot of young people. And, we keep changing. You said you worked for 18 years. So, therefore, you've seen Gen X, you've seen Gen Y, and you've seen millennials. And I don't know how many more alphabets will get added to this over the years. Tell me, as an employer or as a boss, how do you see working with young people? You're young yourself, but say millennials or some other younger people.
I would say it's different because they are born in a digital era
Correct.
versus, I would say, me. They believe in a lot of information sharing. And what change I'm seeing in comparison to the other generations in them is that they want you to listen to them.
Okay.
They want to be heard. They want their leader to be authentic, not somebody as a fake personality to showcase that they are the best. They don't have they can't do anything wrong.
Correct.
That's not the mindset they come up with. They want to see an authentic leader who listens to them, and they want the information to be shared real time with them,
Correct.
which is different from the generation of before.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, when I was growing up, I'm talking of the 80s, whatever your boss told you was right. Now people are pushing back and say,
Yeah.
discuss it with me.
And it's great, I think,
I
because
agree.
when you hear them, you get a very, very different perspective.
Absolutely right.
The upward feedback is so important, I would say, in today's world.
Yeah.
Then maybe I started my career 18 years
Yeah.
back when my boss even didn't care
Correct.
to check what views I am
Correct,
having
correct.
about him or her or taking that upward
Wonderful.
feedback.
Wonderful. So, Nidhi, I have a whole set of questions on your interests, but before I come, let me stay with work related. You're one of the people, one of the ladies who is right at the top of our organization right now in your own function. And yet, gender balance is a serious issue. Of course, a lot of it's been talked about in our country. What are your thoughts on gender balance, and how do you think we can make it much faster in our country?
Gender balance, maybe I should start here with my career journey.
Mm.
18 years back, I still remember that when I joined the team of 40 individuals, the team where I landed was I was the only female CA in that team,
Mm. Wow.
and with an MNC.
Mm.
In that particular team, I was the only female CA, and I've come long way from
Yeah,
them.
you have.
From them, now the ratio of females is increasing for sure.
Mm.
But until 2 years back, I never get an opportunity to work with a female boss
Mm.
in India.
Mm.
Like outside India, we still used to
Sure.
have female leaders, but only 2 years back, imagine in my career, I got an opportunity to work with a female boss. So there's a long way still to be covered,
Correct.
and the organizations are conscious about it. There are KPIs through which they are tracking the diverse gender ratio at all levels. There
Wonderful.
are specific things they are doing to make sure in terms of maternity leaves, making sure female coming back to work, whatever support they provide, grooming. Like currently, I'm a part of a program, India-wide program where my organization has nominated me for a women leadership grooming program. I'm still not at a very senior level, still at a middle level in my organization, but they are making that conscious attempt along with other organizations to groom future women leaders.
Yeah.
So organizations are making all those kind of attempts, but to fast correct all of this, I believe in India specifically, it will be a mindset change in the Indian household that has to be brought. Along with it, a lot of things which organizations are already doing, multinationals specifically, but even the Indian organizations, if they would create those kind of environment policies, things can be faster.
Very nice, very nice. So let's move on to your other interests. I see you've got a whole lot of interests, from being a yoga sadhak to a blogger to gift wrapping, and I must ask you about that, and dance choreographer. So let's start with your blog. What do you write about?
So my blogs are very short blogs. So what I believe in that in the fast-paced life today, you can't write something which will take more than 2 minutes for a reader to read and the message you want to convey. My blogs are usually on the emerging technology,
Okay.
leadership, behavior, styles, or what I felt about a situation or a reaction I had about it, and then also about the healthy living.
Okay, wonderful. And since you write about healthy living, you're also a yoga sadhak. So I know what is yoga. I practice it. But what is a yoga sadhak?
So yoga means unite. So it's a fusion of body, mind, and spirit
Correct.
through meditation, breathing, and physical postures.
Okay.
A yoga sadhak, according to me, is one who would practice these things in the daily life.
Okay. Okay. Sadhak comes from the word sadhana, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. And then tell me about your interest in gift wrapping. This is something which everyone does all the time, but when these two words are mentioned in your interest, I thought I must ask you.
Yeah. So gift wrapping, actually, I personally believe there is no bigger joy than joy of giving.
Correct.
And to make someone special, if you would wrap a gift in a very special way, so that that person feels, oh my god, this is amazing packing you have done. That is what I really love, that reaction on that face, and they feel that they have been made special. More with the kids, I would say. I have a 9-year-old son, and over these years, whenever his friends, when he goes to a birthday party, and I do a special wrapping for his friends and all, and they would say, "Oh my God, you got such a nice thing," and it's amazing, and
Nice,
that's
yeah.
what I have this interest in gift wrapping, to do very special gift wrapping,
Okay.
a way to thank to people who are very special to me.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And my final question on your interest is that you're a dance choreographer. What kind of dance do you like to do?
So it's more on Hollywood numbers.
Okay.
Bollywood numbers.
Okay.
Those are the things I like. Any kind of spontaneous
Okay.
things. So I am usually tapped by a lot of my friends, relatives, and even in colleagues in the office to whenever there is something spontaneous dance to be taught to a group and to be done, and just love that.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Nidhi, a few questions for you personally. My first question is that over the last 18 years that you have worked, or even that before that, have you had any people who've had a strong influence on your life? And if yes, what have been your learnings from them?
I would say there have been many people who have influenced me throughout my life, starting from my parents, who are my role models. I would say, in terms of the value system today I have, is because what my parents and my grandmother specifically they have inculcated in me as I have grown up.
Wonderful.
And in the organizations where I have worked, I've been lucky that I work with many global as well as local leaders who had a great influence on me in terms of grooming me and actually they being there to back me whenever I made a mistake and then grooming me around some of those leadership values
Correct.
and things. They have been my role models, some of them direct leaders, mentors, or coach in my life. So there are many who have
Okay.
influenced me in big way, I would say.
Wonderful.
And I'm very thankful to all of them for whatever they have done for me.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Nidhi, my next question, you're a chartered accountant, successful professionally, you dance, you write, you do yoga. What would be three words that describe Nidhi?
Energetic, curious, and courageous.
Okay, okay, very interesting. Courageous means that you don't hesitate to go ahead and do something without thinking, is it? Or
No, it is, I do things after thinking, but I have courage to put my views,
okay,
even if they are different from others.
wonderful. So, you just mentioned a little earlier that, at Ernst& Young, you had to leave because you got married. And there are lots of pressures, and then you had a child. How do you manage? Because, work pressure keeps increasing as you get more senior. How do you manage your work-life balance?
Uh, so my principle, I would say, is that I believe that the happiness for me is being a whole woman, which means that my work and my family, they are both important.
Correct.
And you have to maintain a balance between amongst them. So I would say, and maybe a message to some of the females
Yeah.
who are listening to me, that please don't try to be a superwoman.
Right.
Look for a help at home when required. You can't do everything yourself.
Correct.
At work, I believe it's so important to delegate and groom without having a fear that someone will overtake you. So if you maintain that thing, you maintain a harmony at home and at workplace, I think the support from both sides will come as and when required, because there will be times in the life where there will be more pressure maybe at work, and then your family will be there to support you.
Correct.
And they understand it that yeah, this is a time we have to support her. At times there can be some personal emergencies and things where you have to be more with your family,
Correct.
and then your colleagues, your bosses should be there to help you and support you when required.
Okay. Wonderful. So, Nidhi, I have only two more questions left for you. My next question is on failure. Indians, and particularly, and I think all over Asia, we don't teach our children that it's okay to fail. It doesn't matter. Everyone just says, first aana hai, jeeto, sabse aage raho, etc., etc. And yet, all of us fail. So, what have been some of your learnings from some of the mistakes you may have made or some of the failures you may have had?
So I think first of all, yeah, as you said that Indians usually have that, but it is never have that fear of failure is something my parents have taught me
Okay.
as I grew up. And I think the learnings in the life, and life is a journey.
Correct.
It is you learn not only from your mistakes but also mistakes by somebody else.
Correct.
And you also learn from your own successes. So there are no particular instances I would say, because it's a continuous journey and so many things that happen in your life which teach you so many things. But early on in my career, as I mentioned, the one learning for me was that speak up, have your voice be heard, share your thoughts with everyone was my learning. Middle career, or where I started as a people leader, I think I'm thankful to a female who gave me a very candid feedback as being the first people leader experience, that how can I improve as a boss. And I think that upward feedback at very early on in my career really helped the pave the path for me to become a leader later.
Okay.
As a people leader. So the second learning was be open to the upward feedback.
Okay.
And the third learning, as today I'm moving towards the senior roles, it is that taking people along with you is very important. Your influencing skills are more important as you grow higher in your career than your technical skills.
Sure. I agree. In fact, my next question was that what advice would you give? But you've already given 3 very, very good tips. So, Nidhi, thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure speaking to you.
Same here.
And I hope to see you very soon, right at the top of your organization and on top of the financial world.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
so much. Thanks. Thanks,
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You podcast. Be sure to visit tbcy.in to join the conversation, access show notes, and discover fantastic bonus content. You can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Simply search for the Brand Called You. Thank you and see you next week.